with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here.
Put this on first. Councillors, we might bring the meeting to order and just check if we're going live. All good. Well, I'd like to begin with the acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, the Darumbal people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend this respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gangaloo Nation people, the Barada, the Cabra and Yetamarara people, and also acknowledge the Torres Strait Island people whose land is in the Torres Strait but live and work on Aboriginal land. Thank you. Next, I'd actually like to ask Pastor Jeremy if he would come to the lectern and give the opening prayer. Thank you, Pastor Jeremy.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity this morning to not only acknowledge the forefathers of this country, dear Lord, but to acknowledge the Christian values on which this nation have been established. Lord, we thank you for the following proceedings that will take place. And dear Lord, I pray that you would just give peace, hope and clarity to every council member, dear Lord, as they make decisions for this great nation. Dear Lord, I pray that you will foster a spirit of unity and of compassion as, dear Lord, they present many different difficulties and things that we deal with on a daily basis. Dear Lord, I pray that your spirit of enlightenment and love and peace will just be throughout every proceeding on this great day. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. For good or bad, you've got me today as in the chair. The Mayor is up in Shoalwater Bay with neighbouring mayors looking at the exercise at the moment. So, we don't have the Mayor here today, and we have Councillor Smith on a leave of absence till the 24th of July. I'll move that those apologies be accepted and seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland. All of those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Confirmation of the minutes. Now we've got two. The ordinary council meeting on the 27th of June and the special council meeting on the 4th of July. Would someone happy to move that those minutes are a true and correct record? Councillor Latcham and Councillor Wickerson. Sorry. It's been a while since I've been in the chair. Moved Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Wickerson. My apologies. All those in favour, and that's carried unanimously. And I've got to ask you all to ask whether I stay in the meeting a bit later. I know how that verdict would go. Okay. Any interest to declare in this meeting? And I actually do. I have, and I'm going to get up a bit closer. My eyes must be getting old. Yeah. Sorry. My eyes must be getting older. Okay, I believe I have a declarable interest in item 11.6, the development application for an extractive industry, as my doctor, Dr. Brad Lorraway, and his wife, Dr. Linda Lorraway, own the neighbouring property to the land mentioned in this report. As my family have developed a very close relationship with the Lorraways, or with Dr. Lorraway and his family, I wish for eligible councillors to determine whether it may participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on this matter, or whether I must leave the meeting, including any areas set aside for public, and stay away from this meeting while the eligible councillors discuss this matter and vote on it. Yeah, I've got to...
Do we need to move a motion to debate on that, or...?
Either answer any questions that councillors have, yes, and or we just put it to the table, and the table will determine whether or not Councillor Fisher can stay or not.
So I'll move a motion that we determine whether you can stay or not. Yep. Just look for a second. This one. Lloyd, sorry, may I ask a question of you?
Yes.
Councillor Fisher, would you invite the Loraways to your wedding? I know you're already married, but to your children's wedding, would you invite them to your children's wedding?
Brad and Linda attended Jessamyn's wedding, yes.
Okay, all right.
Councillor Rutherford, sorry, Councillor Rutherford?
Mine was the same question, so.
So,
Just if we put it to the vote. So you
We'll-
can actually do it. You can
Oh,
actually-
okay, I can actually do that, sorry.
so putting it to the vote, the wording of the motion would be that the councillors determine whether, we can't leave it open-ended, so it would have to be a specific sentence saying that the councillors determine that Councillor Fisher leaves the room.
Yeah,
Or
the motion would either be that the council determined that Councillor Fisher may participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Yep.
That's one. If that's that one that's been moved, that councillor, so that's the one to put to the table. Yeah, sorry, just, so the table determined, or the council determined, that Councillor Fisher may participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. So that word in there. And that was moved by Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Mathers, seconded by Councillor Mathers. And so you can just put that to the table.
And I'm still,
Fine.
it's
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
I don't want to get into trouble with this. So I put that sorry,
Sorry, another question, if I
Yes.
could, and probably through to the CEO, because I guess there's a sort of crunch time as to what we do. Does it specifically say, you've spoken before about the fact that if you have birthday parties or in weddings, it's considered a close personal friendship. Is then the direction that we must then abstain from that item, or is it still up for consideration
That's
as
still up
whether
for
we
consideration. So effectively, by Councillor Fisher answering the questions that they're close personal friends, they've invited the couple to their daughter's wedding, that determines that they're a close associate.
Yep.
And now it's a determination whether or not to stay in the meeting to vote, and the conditions about that.
So my question then to Councillor Fisher would be, do you believe you can still be impartial in this matter?
that's probably the thing that I'm having most difficulties
Yeah,
with.
so if you aren't feeling that you're impartial, then you should
You've answered
leave
that
the room.
question.
Okay.
Then Councillor Fisher should automatically
Leave.
leave, not put it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
If
well,
you're feeling impartial,
I'm feeling very uncomfortable
not
about
impartial,
this.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fine.
but
So we
It has to have a
we strike the
procedure.
first one. And
So
Yeah, so the council,
I move to withdraw this motion on the premise that Councillor Fisher is going to leave the room due to his own personal consideration of the matter.
So it was a live motion of the table, so moved and seconded, so the council would have to vote on the withdrawing
Withdrawing.
of that. So the motion to withdraw, that one be put.
Yep.
Yep. So that was moved by Councillor Kirkland, that was a procedural motion, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. And then put to the table, and so you put that one. So
Okay.
To withdraw the motion. So
To
this is
withdraw the
to
motion, all
withdraw.
those in favour,
Yeah.
and that's carried.
And then Councillor...
I didn't vote.
Yeah,
I-
you didn't vote.
Yes.
And then Councillor Fisher's determined that he doesn't believe he can be impartial with the matter, and hence he will leave the meeting.
Yes. Yeah. My apologies, everyone. This one has been definitely troubling me all night. Okay, so anyone else with? Okay, well, we move on to committee reports. Audit and Business Improvement Committee meeting on the 6th of July. Can I have someone from the committee, have anything there to report, or just take it as read? Councillor Latcham, moved, seconded. Councillor Wickerson? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, we've moved on to those. No council delegate reports. We move officers' reports next. So first off, item 11.1, sponsorship of the 2023 Fitzroy River Barrabash. And I was going to ask Zach to come to the stand. He's already done it. Across to you, Zach.
Good morning, Deputy Mayor. Good morning, councillors. This morning I present to you this report for your consideration of sponsorship of the Barrabash, which is held in October this year. This is an incredible event, now in its 5th year of operation, that highlights the fishing tourism that we have in this region. In last year, which was actually, unfortunately, had a little bit of bad weather. Still attracted over 200 anglers from around the country to hit the water. The IER report, IER is the data strategists that do all of our tourism economy impacts, said that it had an impact of $248,000 to our local economy. This is a great event run by the team at the Frenchville Sports Club, and one that I put to you for your consideration to sponsor. The sponsorship is an allocation of $10,000 plus GST that comes out of our existing operational budget. I open any questions.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Kirkland?
Thanks, Mr Chair. I do have a question for you, Zach. In the commentary, the last sentence says that it's the major event partner for 10,000 ex GST, and then in the actual motion it's 10,000 plus GST. So is there a reason? How does that work? Have I misread that? Have I misunderstood that?
That's a typo on my behalf. It will be $10,000 plus GST.
It is plus GST?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear that the actual recommendation from you was correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Rutherford?
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Zach, brilliant event. I have absolutely no issues with the event at all. However, being the animal lover that I am, I have heard some discussion about that the barramundi are actually dying after these events, that they are exhausted from the battle, from the fight.
Okay.
And even though they're released, they're exhausted and they pass away anyway. So I'm just wondering whether maybe you could chat and say, is there a netted area or something that these barramundi can be put into to be given time to recover before they're released back? Or is, what is the alternative so that we are also looking after these animals as well as running a great event?
Yeah. This event also follows our voluntary code of practice for our Fishing the Fitzroy voluntary code of practice. From my experience, I think that would be more for the king threadfin that perhaps are a little bit more dainty. The barramundi are, they're called sort of like river beasts. They can survive a lot of things, but the king threadfin, I think they have an opportunity, not an opportunity, sorry, sometimes they do, they might not survive what that looks like. I suppose for a lot of these anglers, if it is a sporting thing, they do catch and release instead of catch and keep. But with our voluntary code of practice that all of the anglers adhere to, it's around catching a feed, not a fridge full. But because they're sporting anglers, a lot of the times there are catch and release. And so for these anglers that come here, they are professionals, and a lot of them do know the appropriate way to catch and release for the livelihood of the fish. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, you know, I like the fact that it was catch and release. It seemed to tick all the humane boxes. And then, you know, I heard these discussions that, you know, maybe that the fight is too much for some of them. And I was just going through my head about what may be an opportunity to rest them before we, sort of release them. I don't know. It was just, you know, can throw it out there and see if there's a thought that maybe makes it a little safer even.
I'll ask the event what measures they might be able to put in place. I suppose for a lot of the anglers, if they are catch and release and they are a sporting angler, it's in their best interest for the fish to survive so that it's in there to be caught again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense.
I get that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Chair. Just to comment, actually, Mr Chair, through to Zach. Zach, I just wanted to say it's, you know, this sponsorship is something that's very important. You know, Rocky's really starting to get a name for being the Barra capital, and it's a great thing to do. It'll be nice to be known for the beef and the Barra as well. So this is going to help that as well. So more than happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Someone happy to move? Councillor Mathers. Councillor Wickerson. No further questions. All those in favour? And that's been carried. That was Councillor Mathers and Wickerson. Next item, 11.2, Rocky Nats Tender Consideration Plan 24 to 25. And again, Zach, across to you.
Well, good morning again, Deputy Mayor, councillors. For this next report, this outlines a tender consideration plan for the procurement process that we would like to utilise for the coordination of Rocky Nats 04 and 05. It sets out across 9 different categories and is a continuation of the existing tender consideration plan that we had for Rocky Nats 01, 02 and 03. The recommendation is that you support and adopt this tender consideration plan so we can be underway with organising our next 2 events. I welcome any questions.
Okay, Councillor Mathers, then Councillor Kirkland.
Councillor Kirkland was first.
Well, Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thanks, Councillor Mathers, and thank you, Mr Chair. I did just want to ask you, Zach, just around, I mean, obviously this, what we've got here is a little chart that breaks everything down in that tender consideration, and within those areas of stage, audio, lighting, furniture, marquees, theming and event dressing, my question to you is, does this include grandstands? And if that's the section that includes grandstands, is there a proviso for next year's event from genuine feedback and personal experience that we make sure those grandstand areas had shade, that they are covered or something, especially where the drags are out there? We've had a couple of events now and the experience and the feedback has been the same from the community when standing there, everyone quite discontented with the fact that they're sitting in the raw sun for such long periods of time. If that is the area that needs to be included, can you just clarify that for me, please?
Sure. So two parts of the question. Always open to feedback. There is a Rocky Nats website and social media for external parties to be able to provide feedback. And the great thing about an event like this with car enthusiasts is they're very passionate and give a lot of feedback, so we can continually improve. From a shading point of view for all of the grandstands, there's a cost value that comes there. This is an outdoor event. We are in a warm part of the country. Do we have budget to shade all the grandstands? I would say no, we don't. But we do invite event attendees to be sun smart. For where the grandstands sit. I've got our event coordinator, Eileen Brown, with us here today. Eileen, did you want to comment on where if grandstands sit inside of this?
Yes, so we are trying to address the shade situation. It does come down to a cost element. It is incredibly expensive to cover all grandstands. We are looking at alternative placements, little changes such as on the drags, putting the grandstands on the other side of the road so that it will get the sun from the building, the shade from the buildings in the afternoon. There are some grandstands that we are looking at that do have a shade element, but those are the small cubicled grandstands. With the large grandstands like at the burnouts, the cost is just, outweighs the ability to be able to do that. So we're probably more so looking at just that sun-smart messaging and ensuring that people come prepared and slip, slop, slap. Yes.
Through you, Mr Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Eileen and Zach. My question, I suppose, really to the point of it is that specified within your tender applications that go out that you would like for people to tender, including and perhaps separate what it is to cost with shade, without shade? Because if you're just putting out a tender that says for grandstands, the majority of those are not going to necessarily come back to you including an option for shades. So just to make sure that that is included in that is my question. Is that what's been previously done?
Yes, correct. We have always asked for a shade quote to be included as a separate entity for the grandstands, and that quote has always come back about the same price as the grandstand. It's considerable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. I suppose that we are put into a corner with that one, really, aren't we, Mr Chair?
Yeah.
May I ask a question to the CEO?
Yes.
Mr CEO, where does that put us as far as our workplace health and safety, putting on an event that we are subjecting people to considerable exposure to the sun? I know it's their choice whether they stay there, but significantly, is there any duty of care that falls back to council with regards to that?
I think just providing the advice that it is an outdoor event, slip, slop, slap and all that, take that cover yourself.
Okay, so that's all we can really do
Really
for the
do,
public.
yeah.
That's fair enough, I suppose. Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair.
Also, some people actually do prefer to be in the sun and not under the shade as well, even though it is blistering hot. It is sort of something as well. So there are sort of two sides to that as well.
May I
Yeah.
comment? Yeah, Mr Chair, the challenge is that those seating areas, people have actually paid more money for the VIP section. They've actually paid more registration money to be VIPs, they might as well have not paid that money because they're still exposed to the sun, was the comments that I was getting back from the community and the attendees. That is why I made such an issue of it. But I appreciate where we're at, Zach and Eileen, and thanks for your feedback.
Yeah. No, there are motor racing. There are motor racing enthusiasts and motor racing enthusiasts. So sometimes they're trying to do more and more for them. Actually, you actually lose some of the spectators as well. Okay, we'll move on. Councillor Mathers first.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Through the Chair to Zach. Zach, I don't want to put you on the spot with this, but I'll see how I go with it. There's a number of... in your report, there's a number of times it mentions that where it is not feasible to seek quotes for unique goods/services, that justification will be provided as to why multiple quotes could not be obtained, and in brackets says that justification will be on the purchase order. So my question to you is, can you give me perhaps an example of where that would come up? Like, so say for instance, one of these is resource and requirements, example, waste generators, fencing, traffic management, security, workforce, labour, volunteers, supply of theming, event theming and signage. That's just one example, but can you give me an example of when that would come up that we couldn't get multiple quotes?
for example, for unique theming, if there was, if we had to get a car-shaped bar, and there was one business that hired out car-shaped bars, and they were the only one, that would be an example. There's all with the legalities around the motorsport industry as well. Sometimes there's certain requirements for heights or weights or density of certain things that is a real specialty niche market that certain businesses, that's their whole business, that other businesses don't have. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, that's a good example, Zach. I suppose what I was trying to find, we're talking about very unique or specific things here, so it certainly you wouldn't think it'd come to a stage where it was waste or generator or fencing or anything like that we wouldn't be able to obtain multiple quotes for. Sorry, I understand. Maybe some of the barriers that might be a condition, but the normal pedestrian fencing or something like that, it should be an exclusive thing.
It might be the amount that we need as well. So it might be that we need 2,000 metres of fencing, and might be one national company that can provide that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And once again, that justification will be on the purchase order if that's the case. All right, thank you.
Councillor Rutherford.
Councillor Wickerson first. I'm still trying to get my head around, so you go.
Councillor Wickerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a rare moment, wasn't it? Let's feel that for a moment. Along the same lines as my learned colleague, when we call tenders, because we want to maximise the economic benefit to our local traders, we have a loading, so a bit of a head start for our local providers so that we can get, obviously, the business to stay locally. Even though these are, even though these are subcontractors act to the principal, is there any such loading
There is.
in their system as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? Is it like 10% or something like that? Or
It's a little bit more than that.
more than that?
Yep.
Okay, no, that's good. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we would always, from a local event, it makes sense for us to use local operators where we see, where we can, but ultimately we have a finite budget and we have to pick the best value for money. The other thing is the town is full, and so with transport, logistics, accommodation, that also makes it more difficult for people that aren't local to fulfil some of these things. But our preference is always to pick local. This is a local event where Advance Rockhampton is all about advancing the local economy. But we have to pick the best value for money.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Chair, one more question. Zach, so I might have misunderstood. I thought that the principal engaged the subcontractors. Do we get involved in some of the subletting for various components of the event, or do we put it all through the principal?
Can you give me an example?
Oh, well, I thought the Rocky Nats company, organisation, subcontracted things like stage and audio and lighting, and I know we have fences and the barriers, that they're ours, but for the bits that have to be engaged in,
Yeah.
we do that? So it's our...
Yeah, I might just refer to Eileen to answer that question.
Yes, all contracts are bound with between council and the contractor.
Yeah.
Yes, so the requirements, the scope of works, etc., are established through the Rocky Nats team, because they're the logistics on ground, and they have that understanding of the bump and schedule, what's required and how it's required. However, we carry that contract and that scope of works. Yeah. Does that clarify?
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rutherford, have you thought of your question, or would you like to go to Councillor
No, well,
Mayers
it
first?
was pretty much about the local buy component, but I guess I'm trying to phrase, last time we had a bit of a kerfuffle about local buy and who did what and everything else, and I guess I was waiting for feedback about how the event played out and how everything worked, and I don't believe, unless I've missed something, I don't believe we've got that back.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit uncomfortable about going into this step without knowing how everything played out on the last one, given that there were issues going into it. So I don't know how to put that into questions, and I guess there would be some privacy issues there as well. So, it's just being uncomfortable that I don't have the information that we were looking for before we go into making this decision.
I mean, I suppose there's a very robust and fair procurement policy, and we choose proponents that offer the best value for money. From a local point of view, there is a weighting there. So if a local business has tendered for something and they are not the best value for money, including that local proponent percentage, we have a duty to pick the best value for council. And that's not just for this event, that's for everything.
I certainly understand and acknowledge that, Zach, but, you know, are they tendering apples for apples, you know, is everything. So it was those types of things, you know, it becomes a bit unfair if it's not like for like, or they're dealing with different tender documents as such. So it was just, Ross, you know where I'm going.
Specific one, yeah.
I'll go to Deputy.
Through the chair, yeah, there was a kerfuffle, Councillor, last year. Well, a lot of information didn't come back because it ended up as an AAC, so it went into a level 3 AAC, so it's confidential, so I couldn't go into too much more determination of that. However, what I could say is that the value for money was achieved. It was looked at. The assessments were done, like for like. I think Eileen will correct me. It went through every item that was submitted, that was checked. It was run through our checked. Also went through our procurement team to double check that was all ticked off. The savings were well above the 12%. That was our purchasing policy. So at the end of the day, I was quite comfortable with that process. I think I have, I may be speaking out of turn here, Eileen, but I think the process has changed a little bit. Not looking at that same process this year. It'll be a little bit more hands-on by our team doing it this year. That comparison and that checking.
All right. So through the chair, if I
Yes.
can just, so Ross, I'm taking you're confident that the process and this moving forward is all the right way?
Yes, through the chair, very much so, Mr. Chair and Councillor. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just a question through to Eileen, if that's right, Mr. Chair. Eileen, you just mentioned that, you know, all the tenders are all handled through Rockhampton Regional Council. That wasn't the case last year. There was tenders that went directly to the contractor, to the event contract. So, you know, this year, is it going to be everything going through Rockhampton Regional Council, or will there be some that are going through the event organiser or the management?
Yes, sorry. So everything will be was reviewed by us last year. We did find some areas that we do need to take that complete control of. So we have made some adjustments this year that we have complete control. The only thing that will be sitting with Rocky Nats is the evaluation of the scope of works required to ensure that when we are going out to tender, that what we're asking for is exactly what they need on ground.
Okay. All right. So just another question, if that's right. So you're saying that those other few invoices and that, or quotes and tenders that came in, that they were definitely reviewed by council prior to the decision being made. The decision wasn't already made.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's different information to what we were given. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions? Someone happy to move this report?
Oh, I'm happy to move. I'm happy to move it.
Moved. Councillor Rutherford, seconded. Councillor Kirkland. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Next is the Reef Guardians Council Grants Program. Christine, if you could come to the lectern.
Good morning, Deputy Mayor and councillors. I'm very pleased to bring forward this opportunity today. It's a $920,000 grant opportunity from the Reef Guardian Council's program and through the Australian Government. So this report today actually seeks your approval to submit that grant application. It's important to note that this is a closed, non-competitive opportunity for Council, and it must align with the Reef Guardian Council program objectives, which are to reduce the major threats and pressures to the Great Barrier Reef. So in going through this, we've looked at Council's current Reef Guardian Action Plan, so all projects must align with that current action plan. We've had a little look at what will meet the eligibility requirements for this and what we obviously need funding to actually support delivery of. From that analysis, we've come through with the Rockhampton Airport Solar Project, and that $920,000 is a much needed gap in the current funding within the capital budget for future years. So this will allow us to actually bring this project to life in the not too distant future. I'm recommending that one today to you and welcome your discussion. Thank you.
Okay, well, I might start off. This report was music to my ears because for some reason the airport didn't fit any previous qualifications for grants. It was either too big, too small, a business unit. It has been going on for some time. So finally, there's an opportunity where the airport actually fits the criteria. So that's really exciting to see. And again, these are the small, almost they're small wins, but form a much bigger goal. So I was quite happy to hear that. And I know that we've been trying, but no one there wanted to listen. But thank you very much. So I'll go around the table. Councillor Kirkland, do you have a question?
Well, a comment, probably more than a question. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Congratulations to Christine. We haven't seen an awful lot of big dollars come across for the benefit of the environment, and the environment team is always looking and trying to garner some funding to help roll out what are essentially really good programs. And this, the gentle rollout, or continued, I should say, rollout of solar across our entire array of units through Council is a great initiative that's certainly going to save the ratepayers money. So it'd be great if there was a 1 in front of the 9, but there isn't, so we're going to take it. And I really do hope that we secure that 920 opportunity to help roll out the solar out at the airport, and it does fill a gap. This is sensible. It's an opportunity, but it's really good allocation of a grant opportunity. So well done, Christine, and I'm happy to move that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's okay. You actually were speaking to the motion.
Oh, I was too.
Yes.
Thank you. I got excited.
Yeah, it's easy to. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I've just got a question, if that's all right. Look, this is great, and any time that we can get some funding I think is a good thing. But I'm also I think a comment that was made to me very early on by the CEO is there's no such thing as free money. There's always costs that come along with that. So, in regards to I look at the solar project for the airport, $2.5 million. With a budget we've budgeted 1.4 towards that, so we're still $1 million short on that project. The 920 would have to be shared across the CAF program and the airport program. No, because it's saying there's 3, so no? No? Try again. There you go.
There we go. Sorry, through the chair. So the recommendation is for Rockhampton Airport Solar. We did consider a number of different projects. This won't be shared with CAF Solar if we proceed with Rockhampton Airport Solar.
Okay, right. Okay, all right. So there'll still be a shortfall, but nowhere near as big of a shortfall as what I was thinking. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further questions? Well, it's been moved by Councillor Kirkland. I'll actually second it. One of those sort of prize projects that we've been trying. So I'm happy to second. So if there's no further discussions, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Christine. Okay, next one is item 11.4, development application for a change of use, special industry, microbrewery, hotel and shop. And Amanda, across to you.
Sorry. This morning I'll be presenting 3 of Kathy's reports because she's on leave. The first one, the proposal seeks to establish a special industry microbrewery, hotel, shop located at 304 Key Street, Rockhampton. Just see if I can get this clicker working. There we go. The ground floor area, which is approximately 997 square metres, will consist of a public entry from Key Street, a brewery wet area, public area, bar, kitchen, kids' room, office, cold rooms and amenities. So it'll be within that existing building. So nothing's changing necessarily. They're not removing the building. It's all going to be fitted out internally. The special industry is proposed to have a processing capacity of less than 200 tonnes per annum, with the sale of goods for off-site consumption expected to be low. The process of the brewing will mostly only occur once per week. The proposal received no submissions, however, isn't consistent with the purpose of the zone, therefore was required to be assessed against a framework in the planning scheme. However, it was demonstrated it could comply with that framework. The development is considered to be appropriately located with an existing historic building dating back to 1894, so it's been there for quite a long time. The location is within walking distance to the CBD and public transport. Furthermore, the development fronts Key Street, where buildings are recommended to be adapted and repurposed for a mix of uses to attract people to the CBD. Despite the conflicts, the nature of the operations is not expected to create greater impacts than that of a service industry or a low-impact industry. It is therefore considered that the likely impacts of redeveloping the subject site for non-industrial is not anticipated to restrict or reduce the ongoing functionality of nearby industrial uses or compromise the role and function of the industrial area within this vicinity. Therefore, we recommend approval subject to conditions outlined in the report. And due to this application, we're also putting a recommendation in there. We had to extend it 2 weeks to come to a council meeting, otherwise it would have been decided within the last financial year. So we're recommending that the 15% discount still apply that's in our charges resolution, due to it being our fault, basically, that it needed to be extended to make it on the agenda. So we're also recommending that discount apply to the development as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Questions? Councillor Latcham first.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Just a comment more than anything. It was exciting to see this happen and another business in Rockhampton region. Obviously, more confidence in our area. But I remember reading through the history of Rockhampton, and the block next door actually used to be a pub. So it's interesting that it's almost gone full circle to come back to having a pub next door. So well done.
Interesting point. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Chairman. Just wondering, can we go back to the floor plan, please, Linda? Just some commentary. I know some councillors would have seen Hemingway's in Cairns. I'm sure of it, in fact.
Yes.
Some councils. And just shows how these old historic buildings can be adapted for repurposing. We've got some even closer to the CBD, and I would hope that they keep some of the fabric of that building, because it's that in itself is an attractor. So this is great for the CBD, great for our economy. But just a point of interest, the curved passageway through the building was for a train line that ran right through the building, so they could load whatever it was. I've been in the building in its former life many times to buy fiberglass and stuff too, so that business in itself was there for ages. So through you, the only question I had, nothing planned for upstairs. There is like a storage full floor basically with some voids in it.
Yeah.
That's just for storage or something?
Through the chair,
rooms,
at
is it?
this...
No, eventually.
Yeah, it's just, at this stage, it's just going to be vacant space. They were planning in the future to use that as a function facility, but they obviously just wanted to get downstairs operating first and then look at putting in either an amendment or a new application to get the upstairs component being used as well.
Yeah. So I guess when that point comes, they'll have to put in lifts and all sorts of things for accessibility, like others have done down East Street.
Yeah, so through the chair, under the building code, all whatever requirements are required under that will apply because they're changing the building classification.
Okay, no, very good. Thanks, Mr Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Chair. Yeah, same as what all the other councillors said. It's just great for the CBD, great for the region, more jobs, other business. So I'm more than happy to move.
That would be great. Okay, there's no further questions. It's been moved by Councillor Mathers, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you for that. Now we move on to our next one, which is a development application for a material change of use for a non-residential workforce accommodation.
Yes.
Again, across to you, Amanda.
Okay, as you just said, the proposal is for the establishment of a non-resident workforce accommodation associated with an existing industrial activity at the same site at 222 Somerset Road. Some of you might be familiar with this site. This is associated with Zebra Metals, or Zebra Wreckers as it used to be called, which includes a combination of medium and high impact industries involving metal wrecking and metal recovery. The facility is approximately 300 square metres and comprises of 8 self-contained accommodation units with en-suites, a covered outdoor common area and other amenities including staff room, shared kitchen, laundry and additional toilets. There's just a plan of the floor plan. The proposal is consistent with the zone as non-resident workforce accommodation is contemplated when associated with industrial use on the site. No submissions were received. With this one, we're also recommending that the old charges resolution be applied, not from this financial year, last financial year, the one before. This one was going to be decided in June last year. However, there was an issue with the on-site sewer. So after negotiations with the applicant on conditions of approval pertaining to sewer connections and transport charges, council officers required the applicant to lodge a related plumbing and drainage permit through the assessment period. So the application was basically put on hold. For the applicant to engage a licensed plumber to prepare the plumbing application documents, lodgement and obviously go through the process, this took a lot of time, and obviously with the demand for industry, it was quite hard to get someone to undertake the work. Council obviously approved the plumbing application, but as I said, because of the time frame hold-up, they weren't able to get the decision out in June last year, and it's only just come to, everything's been closed up and finished off now. So that's why we're recommending that the charges from that period of time, also be applied in this instance. Therefore, we recommend approval subject to the conditions and the adopted and applying the charges in accordance with the previous resolution.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions to that? Councillor Mathers as
Happy to move.
Chair, Committee, happy to move. Councillor Latcham, second. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Now, next one is one that I've got to declare, I've got to leave the meeting with that, so I'll leave the meeting now. Okay, and I'm going to go that way, not into there. Yeah. Sorry, councillors.
Okay, councillors, with we'll wait till Councillor Fisher leaves. Councillors, we need to appoint a chair we need a move and recommend.
I move that we appoint Councillor Mathers as Portfolio Chair for Planning to take over the
Second.
meeting.
Councillor Latcham, second. All those in favour? Okay. Over to you, Mr Chair.
Thanks very much, Deputy CEO. Thank you very much. 11.6 on the agenda, development application for material change of use for an extractive industry. We'll take that over to you. Thanks, Amanda.
Yep. So, yeah, as the proposals for an extraction...
Sorry, excuse me, Amanda. Sorry, we've got a question here from Councillor Rutherford.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Amanda, for
No worries.
interrupting. Just before, Mr CEO, some of these decisions are big decisions, and we're now reduced down to 5 councillors. Is there a risk that when there is not at least close to a full complement of the council table, in having to deal with these decisions sort of light on?
Within the Act, all you need is the quorum at the meeting, and that quorum is the council decision. So that is the decision of council. So you can have 4 or more, and that is the quorum. That is the decision of council, whatever it may be at the end of it all. Risk of challenging, that's irrelevant. It is the decision of council.
Okay. All right, thanks very much. Over to you, Amanda.
Yep. The proposal is for an extractive industry located at Lot 3 on Malky 9 Mile Road and Lot 591 Capricorn Highway, Gracemere. Operations are proposed to extract 400,000 tonne per annum to supply materials including engineered fill to major projects, including the Ring Road project. That's the site, and this is the plan of the extraction pits. The land use does include an environmental relevant activity, which will be regulated by DES. So all environmental impacts will be regulated by DES, not council in this instance. That includes also amenity impacts as well. There has been submitted an environmental management plan, which all those activities will have to be conducted in accordance with that. The contractor for the Rockhampton Ring Road projects have been to the market and undertaken a thorough assessment of every quarry and fill supply option. Their findings is that the proposed supply site is the only suitable supply site for Class A1 embankment fill within 50 kilometres of Rockhampton, capable of supplying the complete volume of fill required for the southern section of the project and avoiding haulage through the Rockhampton CBD and built-up areas. 101 submissions were received. Yeah.
Sorry, Amanda, can I just get you to elaborate on that? Is it because it's the quantity? Because we certainly have other quarries, pits, there's one in Stanwell that have the same type of material, so there are some around. So it's not about the material, so is it the quantity of material that they say?
Yeah, through the chair from my... through the chair, from my understanding, it's the quantity, but it also, that particular site is got a good combination of clay, and Jamie was the... He knows a little bit more about the material component than I do, but...
Can you grab
a... Morning, councillors. Through the chair, so that the class of material, the A1 class, is normally a mix of rock and clay. So this site has got good rock and good clay material. When mixed together, it's giving a low permeability, so it's perfect for embankment material that could be used in flood-prone areas. So where there's a potential that that embankment material could be susceptible to floodwaters, it still has its structural integrity, if that makes sense. So that sort of makes the site fairly unique, I suppose.
Yeah, I understand that. Through the chair, if you don't mind, because I thought if we could ask questions while the information's coming, it might make it easier to understand if that's... Yeah. So my understanding from the geology of the area is that that clay content is only about 1 metre deep on the side. So once they get through that, that content that they're saying is so important is short-lived in the scheme of things.
Yeah, Councillor Rutherford, I'm not a geotech engineer, so you may be correct in that it's only at that depth, that clay material. They've got quite a large area or a large footprint to access that material from, so that might address that quantity issue, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess we're making a decision on the information that's been provided, and if that information is not quite correct, you're making the decision on the information that's provided, and if it's not quite correct, then how do we make a correct decision?
Yeah. Through the Chair, Councillor Rutherford, the report that was submitted has suggested that there is adequate quantity to provide for the southern section of the ring road. So their assessment has determined that there is adequate capacity of that clay material on the site, as well as that rock material to supply that southern section.
And that's staying under the 400,000 per annum limit?
Yeah. Through the Chair, so that's what we've conditioned, and you'll see a condition within the conditions that it's got to be 400,000 per annum is the maximum they can extract.
So one more question,
Yes.
Mr Chair, if
Yep.
that's all right.
No problem.
So if they have approval to move 1 million tonnes per annum, and we're conditioning it to 400,000, what happens if they then intend to move more than that 400,000 because they have approval for 1 million?
Yeah, through the Chair, that means they conflict with their conditions of approval and that we could take compliance action if they do exceed more than 400,000 tonnes. So yeah, the EA approval has up to, they have thresholds up to, so when you apply for the ERA, they actually have thresholds to certain points. So they've gone from, I think their thresholds up to 1 million, but we've only approved it for 400,000. All the traffic impact assessment, all that was only done for 400,000 tonne per annum, and we've conditioned to ensure that it's only 400,000 tonnes. So if they wish to extract more than that, they will need to put a development application in with council.
Yes, and that's, I guess that's the point I was getting to. I didn't know whether to interrupt you too early.
No, that's right.
On that, that's exactly my concern.
Yes, yeah.
Is that if they came out with that $1 million haulage, the $1 million tonne haulage straight away, I suspect the conditions on them would be much different than what's written in here.
Yeah.
So my concern is that bit by bit that haulage amount will creep up. However, the conditions that they would normally have to adhere to on 1 million tonnes won't creep up. And, you know, that has a significant impact on everything. So that's my very fear. That, 400, we're saying 400,000, but, you know, 1 year or 2 years down the track, we're suddenly going to see haulage up to 1 million tonnes.
Yeah, through the Chair, they've got no approval for that. As I said, they will have to come back and put a development application in and amend all their reporting to go through that process.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back later.
I'm almost finished anyway. I was just, the submissions. So we did have 101 submissions received. Some were from the surrounding areas and others were throughout the region. And some throughout the state. The issues raised were adequately addressed as detailed in the report. You will find a lot of the amenity issues that were raised have been, is covered under the state government approval and has been addressed fairly heavily in their requirements. The proposal is consistent with our planning scheme, so that's important as well, is it does meet the requirements of the planning scheme. Therefore, we recommend the proposals to be approved subject to the conditions outlined in our recommendation.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Questions? We'll go around the table. I think Councillor Kirkland was first, so over to you, Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thank you, Mr Chair. I just wanted to ask about, you know, the fact that you pointed out that it's non-compliant in the blasting component, and that obviously it's not their intent to have to do that, but should they need to do that, I suppose those mitigations have been outlined here. I just wanted to check, because I may have missed it and apologise if I have, will there be, because of that reasonably close proximity to neighbouring properties, will there be notifications that go to graziers and the like of that? I don't know what the impacts of blasting would be, but I'm guessing that it would be disruptive to normal business for those graziers, and would they receive notification as such in the event that there is going to be blasting?
Through the chair, so the DES, state government, have conditioned requirements around the blasting in the cases that it does occur, and as the applicant has identified, it's not, if it does, it's not going to be regularly in this instance. The conditions that have been put on place through the environmental relevant activity through the EA have demonstrated or have conditioned that they've got to ensure that there is no off-site impacts. So there are requirements there regarding the blasting, and there's they've got to do everything like storage, everything in accordance with Australian standards. The nearest house is 650 metres away. So we have a lot of quarries within the region that do blasting regularly that are in a shorter distance than that, where we don't receive any complaints through. But as I said, if there are complaints or there are any disturbance, we would just refer them to state, and state could do compliance because it is covered in their ERA conditions. And as Evan pointed out in a previous meeting, with the blasting that's undertaken, if it's done correctly, it's not, I suppose, the technology and the method they use these days, it's not, the impact is very minimal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Chair. Through to you, Amanda. Just a couple of questions. The volumes that are coming out, whose responsibility is it to monitor that? I imagine it wouldn't be DES because they're looking at environmental. So how do we measure that they're complying, pardon me, with that 400 tonnes maximum?
Yeah, through the chair, like all extractive industries within the region, because we have the amount hauled and so forth, is all conditioned, and you would have seen a condition around there about the road levy maintenance. So we get information from them every 6 months that identifies that. So we can monitor it through that process. And they have weigh bridges, like how they operate and how they haul the materials and that, all that's undertaken on site and recorded. And we've conditioned that information be provided to council.
Okay, thank you. And with the DES monitoring, do we know what sort of processes they have in place to monitor the dust, to monitor the noise and other impacts on the community? Are we privy to that sort of procedure or methodology?
Yeah, through the chair. So yeah, we do work, occasionally we do consult with them on various things if complaints, because we do tend to get the complaints come first through to us, and then we normally refer them on to DES. So we normally are aware of them. DES have a team locally that for coal and compliance that actually look after mines outside of town, as well as extractive industries within the region. So they have a compliance team that work on that, and they, as I said, they're conditioned. So we get a copy of their conditions, which I've got here under their assessment under the Environmental Protection Act, and there's conditions in place that they have to meet. And yeah, as I said, DES will go through and monitor them. So they've got a process set up, and there is a local team that does do that. So some of the other compliance is done external, like from people have to come into Rocky and from officers from throughout Queensland. But with extractive industries, there is a local team that monitor to ensure compliance is undertaken.
Okay, thank you. And is that information shared with council? Do they send in, or are the details of regular monitoring or any breaches? Does that come back to us to? No obligation for that?
No.
And Mr. Chair, final question, thank you.
No problem.
At the end of the extraction, is there anything, and I'm sorry if I've missed this too, is there any revegetation or rehabilitation of the site included?
Yeah, through the chair. So as I mentioned earlier, there's an environmental management plan that they have to abide by, which has everything covered from dust, air quality, noise, waste management, and in there is requirements which we've conditioned and which, again, this is something DES do look after with the rehabilitation, but there is a rehabilitation plan that's got to be put in place once the extractive industry ceases. And that's the same for all extractive industries. Yeah. As soon as, and you'd probably find it be the same for mines as well, as soon as the operations cease on site, the site has to be rehabilitated.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thanks very much, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Rutherford?
Mr Chair, I have lots of questions.
How about we just go over to Councillor Kirkland,
yep,
and then we'll come back to you.
All right.
No problem. Councillor Kirkland?
Thanks, Mr Chair. Yes, I just wanted to know, and it's possibly through to Jamie, just what the current movements on the haulage routes are. We see there that we're going to see an extra 37 heavy vehicles per day. So I'm just trying to gauge what level of increase in activity that's going to mean to those haulage routes. I acknowledge that there's a road maintenance levy that's going to be imposed for continued maintenance of that road as a result of those 37 movements, which is grand. However, I'm just trying to think about other residents and other people that use that road and what that means to them, I suppose, by understanding the traffic movements. If I could get an understanding of what they currently are on the haulage routes, that'd be great.
Through the chair, councillors, roughly 300 movements a day, so a tick over 300 movements a day. Of that, we're looking at roughly about 110 heavies a day. Already.
Okay.
So probably the other thing to note is this is an approved B-double route.
Okay.
So the design vehicle they're using is a truck and quad dog. So it's a 19 metre length design vehicle, whereas approved B-double's roughly 25. So further to that, we've done a road safety audit, we've done a traffic impact assessment and a pavement impact assessment. So we've looked at the haulage route, we've looked at width of carriageway ranging from around 6.5 metres to close to 8 metres. There's a couple of areas that we have noted. Just prior to Scrobby Creek Bridge, there's a sharp bend there. We have got appropriate speed reduction signage there and hazard markers. We have run swept pass through there to make sure it is safe for two heavy vehicles to pass each other. Scrobby Creek Bridge, we have had a look at that. I've had a chat to our assets team about the structural integrity of that bridge, which is quite good. The only restrictions there are the width of the bridge. However, we have appropriate giveaway signage such that the southbound traffic have priority there. So we have done an assessment of that whole route and we believe it's adequate for the additional increase in vehicles.
Thanks, Jamie. It's really good and well explained. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Rutherford?
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. That was one of my concerns as well. And I know you say that the widths are good, but when you're there with a cattle truck, loaded cattle trucks, and then you've got...
Excuse me, Councillor Rutherford, just take the mic.
Sand trucks coming from different directions, and then you've got a sedan with children in it moving from schools. You know, there's still that real fear factor about what happens through that road and the speed that the traffic is moving through there. That bend is certainly an issue, a concern onto Scrubby Creek Bridge. So you're really confident that this is a safe passage?
Yeah, so through the chair, councillors, as I said, we have done a road safety audit, so that has been done by their consulting engineer who's an RPQ. We've done an internal road safety audit as well. So the southern section of Malky 9 Mile Road leading up to that bend, we've asked for some centreline marking and retro-reflective pavement markers to be included. We are talking to infrastructure planning about potential reduction in speed for that section leading up to that bend as well, because it does start at 60, then defaults back to 100. And then we've got the warning signage there for 40 where that bend is. So we're looking at reducing speed in that section. But as I was saying before, we already have over 100 heavies traversing that area already. So
Yeah. I know that, and we also have significant pavement failure there on a regular occurrence as well. So, and then even after heavy rains, to avoid those, let alone avoiding vehicles, to avoid, you know, a lot of the major potholes, to get off the road, you know, it's very, very difficult. There's not many places where you can actually even get off the road. So it's just, you know, already it is one of the high maintenance roads that we have in the rural area, and we're just going to add to that. So that's my real, very real concern. Yeah, it's a safety one for that road. Then, if I can come back to the compliance issues, and I'll start first with, once again, the route. It says that they're not to go north on that road. Who polices that? I mean, obviously, if they're taking this material for the ring road and they've got to get to Pink Lily Alton Downs, who's going to police that they don't go?
Yeah, through the chair. Obviously, we're not going to be out on site every day to be able to monitor that, but you find that most of the quarries who've got haulage routes, they do undertake it in accordance with what's been approved. And if they don't, we have got the ability to, if there are any complaints, to address that with them and go down through the compliance track with them if that's what needs to happen.
And which way would you send them then?
Well, south. So they'd have to, at the moment, they've only got approval to go south from the site. There's no approval to go north.
And then back through town?
Yeah, and you've got to keep, and understand your concerns, but keep in mind with this, if this site doesn't provide these materials, if it is another extractive industry outside of the region that brings it in, and this is a B-double route, we won't have any ability to put any of these conditions on place that this approval allows us to do, with it being within our region. So this helps. We've got the ability to assess the engineering reports that came in, and our engineers got the ability to assess that, and we've got the ability then to condition and to ensure that the haulage route and the haulage route on the council roads for this development's approximately only 5 kilometres. So the rest is on state roads.
Yeah. So that brings me to the blasting. And I know it says that they don't intend to blast. Their original application said they did intend to blast. Why the change of heart?
Through the chair, they wanted to ensure that it was on there in case they needed to, if they were in the process of extracting some materials and they came across some rock that they needed to blast. Mm-hmm. But from their testing on site, they think that it would be a very rare occasion. They've already had several test pits on site, which you'd probably see if you do a drive past. They've already established that blasting will be unlikely.
All right.
Yep.
I guess the information I got was once you get down under that metre, it's heavy rock, and blasting will be required. So can we condition, given that they're saying, because, I mean, they say, oh, well, we don't intend to blast, but then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, no, we find we're going to have to be blasting once a month or whatever else.
Yeah, through the chair,
what condition can we put on them for that?
Yeah, through the chair, we don't monitor the blasting. That's, as I said, that's all undertaken by state, and state have got a lot of conditions, and I can give you a copy too, but they've got a lot of conditions around the blasting component of it. So they do that, as I said, across the state. They have extractive industries, and they have requirements, as I said, in accordance with Australian standards, and even the storage of the blasting components, all that's regulated by them. And as I said, they've got standard requirements that need to be met to ensure amenity is protected.
Okay, so I understand that, except that, and that's, I sit that over here.
Yeah.
But under our planning requirements, it says you can't blast within 1,000 metres.
So yeah, through...
And when you're assessing that, you're now going, well, we're going to allow it closer than 1,000 metres, 650 metres, because they're telling us they're not going to blast, or they're not going to blast very often.
Yep.
So that's the reasoning. So we're accepting that reasoning to break our own planning code.
Yeah, through the chair, we're not accepting that reasoning that because they say they're not doing much blasting. The reason that we've accepted that there will be blasting on site is because there's requirements under the EA that protect the amenity. So that is an acceptable outcome. It's just a solution to comply with that performance outcome. These conditions and what they've addressed in their environmental management plan has indicated there won't be off-site impacts, and that will be monitored, as I said, by state. So it's an acceptable outcome. They meet the performance outcome that's been demonstrated there. Also, that requirement is in there for extractive industry where there's not an EA. Like, we would apply that more regularly when it's under 5,000 tonne, where there's no state approval, and where the governing people who will be governing the blasting and so forth. But anything which wouldn't normally happen anyway in extractive industries that small, but it's in there just as an acceptable outcome. But as I said, if they can come up with a solution to show that there's not going to be, through their operations, that there's not going to be off-site impacts, and that's, as I said, covered by state, and they meet the requirements, it technically meets that performance outcome.
So given that the surrounding areas rely on rainwater tanks and that for their water, how do they stop the dust plumes from... I mean, there's dust anyway that you have to live with, I get that, but dust plumes from blasting are a totally different thing. So how are they going to mitigate those dust plumes from contaminating the rainwater tanks that these people rely on?
Yeah, through the chair, again, that's all through their environmental management plan, which again is regulated, and their activities for that is all regulated under state. So the activities and the environmental impacts are covered under state. We're approving the land use, not the activities. The details of those activities are, as I said, regulated by state.
But I guess that's the impact that our residents are going to feel. So what recourse do they have if these impacts become unreasonable?
Yeah, so through the chair, they have conditioned under the EA, state have, requirements regarding air, dust, so all that. And it talks about, I mean, as I said, they're quite detailed, but just to give you an example, other than permitted odour or airborne contaminants, environmental nuisances, all that's covered under there. Dust and particle matters emissions must not exceed, and there's a set of requirements under the environmental relevant activity. It goes as far as going dust of 120 milligrams per square metre per day, monitored in accordance with Australian standard, and it references the standard. So it's quite heavily, these are quite heavily regulated. That's why we very rarely ever get any complaints with extractive industries. They're probably one of the most regulated land uses there is.
Thank you. If I can refer to L, on your rural zone code, sorry, I don't have a page number that I can give you, but it moves down and it is sort of dot point L. It says extractive industries, including mumble lime works on rural land, are protected from encroachment by incompatible uses. Can you explain what an incompatible use encroaching on a extractive industry would be?
So, so if there's an extractive industry and they've included the particular one that they're referencing there, on rural land, so they'd have to make sure that, for example, if the extractive, most of them have buffers anyway within the site, but anything where there's older ones where they may not have those, that started before the 1971 that weren't assessed, I suppose, under a land use approval. They're just saying that when uses, other sensitive land uses such as rural, like a housing, for example, they'd have to make sure that they're separated in a way that there's no impacts.
That's what I was waiting for. So if in this case a residential application come in for a block of land next to an extractive industry, would planners approve that?
Through the chair, again, this is regulated by a state. So in the actual state approval, it doesn't, and I did read it here earlier, but it talks about any sensitive land use. So for example, if a house is proposed on, we do have provisions in the scheme to account for any extractive industries on rural properties. So we will have setbacks that will be required as well when the house gets built. But again, if they meet those requirements, the house is developed and there are any concerns, these conditions under the state approval actually specify, they reference sensitive land uses. So even if someone comes in afterwards, they need to make sure their mitigation measures are in accordance with these approvals.
Yeah, I guess I feel for someone, often people will buy a block of land and they have to wait a couple of years to build up their bank account to be able to build. And in between that time, suddenly, land that was rural purpose has been made an extractive industry. What happens to their options? Just because they were doing the right thing and building up their bank account to be able to build their dream home.
Yeah, through the chair, with extractive industries, as I said, there are requirements when they build their home that there are setbacks, and as I said, they will need to mitigate against any impacts through the state government approval. However, this will happen with any extractive industries will always be located in rural zones. So wherever you approve an extractive industry, it's the same thing is going to apply. So and you'll find these setbacks. These setbacks aren't just extractive industry. So there's requirements in the scheme from intensive farming as well for there to be setbacks on neighbouring properties. So it's just the nature of the zone, and there's nothing you can do to avoid that. But the setbacks for some intensive farming would be just as much as an extractive industry, such as a feedlot, for example.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to the next point, I guess, and that's the incompatibility of land uses. Within the city, we have zonings between light industrial and whatever. Here we have, we definitely have, even though it's rural land, we have an extractive industry right across the road, and it's not just cattle grazing land. We have a very well-respected Brahman stud farm that is operating, has been operating for 45 odd years. Their cattle are worth an absolute mozza, and here we have an incompatible industry setting up across the road. How do we justify that? How do we impact so heavily on an industry that's been established there for such a long time, have built an amazing reputation, and yet something else can just move in and has the potential of destroying the livelihood of another industry?
Through the chair, it wouldn't have been approved if that was the case. So through
what
states...
information have you got that says it's not the case?
Well, it's conditioned under that. As I said, they've done an environmental management plan, which they need to comply with, and that has all their operation that's been approved by a state. We've got a rock quarry that does regular blasting, as I said, right, literally less than 500 metres away from a whole heap of residential houses in Norman Gardens. The impacts, as I said, they've got to demonstrate, and as I said, state have accepted that their setbacks are sufficient and that they can reasonably apply reasonable and relevant conditions to ensure that there's no issues. And as I said, they do have, through all their conditions, there's a complaint process. If there is any complaints made, they have to undertake, so that the operator has to undertake nuisance monitoring and provide that and undertake a process to make sure all those impacts are mitigated. So it's quite heavily conditioned in regard to the activities.
So this is purely theoretical, but so if it was to impact on, on the cattle here, if they, they didn't fall pregnant or they dropped their fetuses or whatever else, could they then take this other people to court, to the extractive industry to court, and then what risk does that put council in, given that we approved?
As I said, through the chair, so the only, if there was going to be, the quarrying activities on site aren't going to affect, as I said, there's mitigation measures in place. Even with the blasting, there's mitigation measures in place. I can't obviously give any legal, but we've approved the land use. It's state that monitor all this, so we're not at any risk, being council. They've got all the, as I said, if there was any issues, they would identify that with state. State would get the operator to undergoing monitoring of any of the concerns that were occurring, and then mitigation measures would have to be put in place, and that's a requirement under the EA.
Yeah, I'm a little sceptical that we don't think that there are any issues or won't be any issues. These cattle are spooking at, different things that happen. So, I don't know how we can be so confident that it's not going to cause an issue. That's the big concern.
Yeah, I suppose through the chair, as I said, these things, these activities are regularly conditioned by state. As I said, it's extremely, I have not had an instance where we've had any complaints in this regard. The measures and the technology they use to do the blasting, on the very rare occasion it will happen, is not, they have to comply with Australian standards, and that is undertaken, as I said, and all compliance is undertaken to ensure that occurs.
And we can't condition the number of times they blast in...
No, through the chair we can't. That's state.
Okay. Linda, I did send an email through. Amanda, I just want to show you some photos of... This is from a 60 mil rain event.
Okay, yep.
And it's the amount of water there. Now, there's two things here. There is, and I know this is state, but I do wonder how we get through to the state that this is a really important issue as well. There are wetlands there that are very sensitive and very important. Now, if the water can't get through to them, that's an issue. If the water gets through to them polluted, that's an issue. If this is the amount of water that's... And remember, this is just a 60 mil rain event. This is the amount of water. What are the proponents going to do about this amount of water coming through that land and still allow decent amount of flow to get through to those wetlands?
Yeah, through the chair. So they undertook a stormwater management plan, and there will be a bund wall that will be going up to help manage some of that. Jamie might be able to give a little bit more detail from an engineering perspective on this one.
Through the chair, councillors. So, as Amanda was saying, this is regulated by state and the environmental management plan, the stormwater management plan. But they have bunding proposed around any of the pit areas such that any of the upstream clean water does not go into that contaminated area, so it'll be diverted around that area. Any of the disturbed area, that contaminated water will be held in sediment basins, so any of that nasty water, I suppose the sediment and any of the pollutants will drop out of that water before it weir flows over those basins and continues on its way. So there's a process in the environmental management plan as to how to address that water that would be as a consequence of those disturbed areas, to drop that sediment out and drop any of those nasties out before that water can find its way on to its natural tributary, I suppose.
So, Jamie, if they get a clear, even if it's for car parking or truck movement or anything, and they clear the trees, and what about the erosion impact, not just for the land where the quarry is, erosion's not much of an issue for them, but the sediment that then comes with that through to these wetlands?
So any of that sediment will be dropped out in the sediment basins. So they've got 2 large proposed sediment basins.
So
any of that,
all the water on site
yeah,
will be channeled through?
Correct.
Okay. And then they release from there. So does that mean that they're stopping all water from getting to the wetlands, or are they still going to?
No, the water will still find its way to the wetland. It's just any of that sediment-laden water will find its way into those sediment basins. So it'll be given time to drop out. So any of the sediment will drop out, and then over a period of time, that clean water will continue to find its way through to the wetlands.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if we find that becomes an issue, do we have recourse with the state government to protect those wetlands?
Yeah, through the chair, they're fairly quick. With other quarries that I'm aware of, they're fairly quick to act on anything in relation to wetlands, and they do undertake compliance and issue fines, and yes, so they do keep an eye on all that.
Mr. Chair, I thank the table for their patience, and I just, if you could bear with me, this is...
Councillor Rutherford, this is very important stuff, so take your time.
It is, so if you can just bear with me, please. Not too much more,
yeah, no, it's
Amanda,
okay.
but I guess now I probably would come to their hours of operation.
Yep.
Which, the first point I would make is unfair competitive advantage. Other quarries and the like around there have been restricted to 7 to 5 working hours. These guys are being recommended 6 to 6, so competitive advantage straight away to them. How do we justify?
Through the chair, when the application is submitted, their consultant identifies their hours of operation. So we would have just conditioned whatever hours of operation they proposed. If they wanted to do, obviously we look at the hours and make sure they're reasonable, like we wouldn't approve saying just because they're proposing 24 hours operation, for example, doesn't mean we'll necessarily approve it. But yeah, if we think the hours are reasonable and the state haven't conditioned any restrictions on the hours, then we would just put what they propose, provided they're reasonable. So those, for example, those other industries, they could do an amendment to their application if they're wanting to do additional hours now. There is that ability for them to do that.
Is it possible for us to put different hours in there, given that they are so close to residential properties, that they are so close to sensitive industry?
Yeah.
6 o'clock is still, in winter time, is still dark morning and night.
Yep.
And if it's a 6 o'clock start, you've got traffic movement coming in much earlier than that. So is it possible to, in respect of adjoining owners, that we change those times?
Yeah, so through the chair, the state have conditioned hours just in relation to the blasting, which we've also I suppose, copied and used those same conditions to be consistent. As far as the general operations for the extraction, yeah, I suppose we do have the ability, if it's reasonable, to think that there would be impacts. But as I said, most of the activities, the closest, as I said, dwelling to the site is slightly north is north, where all the truck movements and that is going to be to the south. So I wouldn't believe there'd be a lot of impact in that regard at this stage, if they're only doing it, if they're only using the haulage route as per the approval. And as I said, because they've got to keep their noise within certain requirements, I can't see that there would be any impacts.
Mr Chair, I foreshadow that I would like to make an amendment to the hours of operation on this when we get to... Amanda, when do I do that? Can I do that now?
Yeah, so if you wanted to
Sorry,
propose...
No,
There's no live motion. There's no motion on the table at this stage.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when we put the motion on the
Remember,
table...
there's some occasions here where opinions, and not just saying you, Councillor, the opinions, but just the questions. Yeah, just keep it to questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr CEO.
And
Sorry,
so-
it's hard when you're trying to make a...
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mr CEO, just when that, is that the foreshadowed, is that a procedural motion, so it doesn't need to be seconded when that
there's
comes?
nothing at this stage.
No, but when
so
it
when
comes.
somebody proposes a motion, you'll get the live motion, and then we can work on that one. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think the last one, Amanda, would be the infrastructure charges, and I get what you've said, that they're paying, but what makes it different to the ones we've dealt with before that are paying infrastructure charges, that are contributing to the growth and the infrastructure of the whole region? Why is this one not?
Yeah, so through the chair, obviously our resolution, our charges resolution, so all extractive industries have been charged the same. We haven't charged any infrastructure charges for them. The only thing that we charge is the road levy maintenance. So there wouldn't be, they talk about demand on trunk, which is identified. There's no, it's not like a high impact industry use. It's just been identified under the charges resolution that the demand's not there or reasonable to charge infrastructure charges. Plus we've got the road levy maintenance, which is more, I suppose, relevant to this type of land use, which is a lot different than a land use does. Other land uses don't have such a big component on haulage routes and things like that as this type of land use does. Yeah. So that's why the road levy maintenance is a better way to, I suppose, account for the impact on council's roads.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And maybe that's a discussion, not for now, maybe at another time, as to whether they should be contributing just like everyone else does. I don't know. I haven't got enough information to know one way or another. And then there was just one more, and probably more to Jamie, if you don't mind, and that's on that road maintenance levy. And I noticed that it's linked to CPI, and we know that expense to us is much higher than CPI. So why do we not link it to CCI?
Councillors, we normally use CPI or PPI, Producer Price Index. That is a consistent approach we've taken with all other extractive industries, and we believe that's fair and reasonable at this point in time.
Could you just explain PPI to the...
So PPI is Producer Price Index, CPI is Consumer Price Index.
Yes. I guess the point I was trying to make is that roads in particular cost us more money, so wouldn't CPI wouldn't CCI, Council Cost Index, be more relevant?
Yeah, councillors, I haven't used the council cost index previously.
So I'll respond through the chair. So for the council cost index, it's an LGAQ determined index, which is only relevant for rating purposes. The two indices that Jamie's referring to are actually produced by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, so it's all clear and published, and that's why we go for those external indices. The PPI, it's sort of more indication of materials, and so it is a good indicator to use.
There used to be a published road cost index as well, and that's not done anymore. Road and bridge.
All right. So Jamie, you're still thinking that CPI is better than PPI?
I believe CPI is relevant in this instance, councillors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr Chair. Thank you, councillors, for your patience.
Thanks very much, councillors, for everyone's patience. So thanks, Councillor Rutherford. All right, so in the matter of 11.16 on the agenda, as the Planning and Regulation Portfolio spokesperson, I'll move that, seeking a seconder. Councillor Latcham.
Can I foreshadow an alternate motion, please?
We can do that. Is that a procedural, or do you need a seconder to do that? Councillor Wickerson, seconds the foreshadowed motion. Yeah.
Hours of operation.
Yeah, so it's 6 to 6. You wanted, Councillor Rutherford, you were foreshadowing 7
till 5.
7 till 5. You've got that as a note? Okay, I'm just letting Linda catch up. You're all good? Sorry, we'll just let Linda make the changes there. Okay. So I'll put that to the table. All those in favour? Sorry, of the foreshadowed motion?
No, you've got to put your motion first.
Oh, sorry,
You've
I
got to
apologise.
put your motion first. Mine only goes if...
Okay, right, sorry, so I apologise for that. All right, so I'll put that to the table, the original motion. All those in favour? No, sorry.
So just to clarify for the council table, this is the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, as it
This
sits.
is the current motion.
Yeah, current, yes. Yeah, so the current motion as it sits, as you read in your report, with the hours of 6 to 6, all those in favour?
You have to call against?
Sorry?
Call
And against? Sorry.
Yeah, I think because the chair's already put the motion, you sort of lost that chance to go around, so yeah. Yes, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so Councillor 4 and Councillor Kirkland 4. Sorry, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor... No, because there's a conflict. We've got a conflict of interest up here.
Yeah.
Councillor Rutherford and Councillor Latcham voted against it. The motion is lost. So now we've got...
So I'd like to move
Yeah.
the foreshadowed motion.
Yep. So, which is the same as per the...
I'll send you the brand new 13.3, Linda, if you like. with the change to 13.3 of the officers' conditions, 1700. Linda. Yep, so I've just sent you that one, Linda. So, councillors, when we do the minutes, we'll do it up so you see all the bits and pieces, and that'll come through. Yeah, change to 13.3. So that's the one there. 700 hours to 1,700 hours. So 7 till 5.
7 to 5. So as everyone understands what they're voting on now? All right, so I put that...
We'll go moved by Councillor Rutherford.
Moved by Councillor, second Councillor Wilkinson.
You can have a speaker for the motion if you so wish.
Okay. That's
or
for the motion?
Councillors, I think I've taken enough of your time. I think I've made my point very clearly. So.
No, speakers against the motion? Oh, Councillor Cook.
I was going to speak for the motion.
Yeah, against first, and then you can speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, councillors, 6 till 6 in the bush is standard hours of work for pretty well every farmer that's out there. I really don't think that bringing it forward to 7 is being fair to the proponent. I think it's just being, to be quite honest, I feel that it's being a little bit unreasonable, that restricting those hours just by those extra two hours for a business is a significant impact. And I'm sure the farmers, if they were restricted to not starting doing what they do until those hours, they'd feel the same, because, you know, they're out there, and certainly some people like our CEO get up at 4 a.m. and get started in the day every day of the week, and so I really think it's unreasonable. It says here it's Monday to Saturday, there's no operation on Sunday or public holidays. And I'm sure that a lot of the farmers some of them operate on Sundays and public holidays. The blasting hours are limited from 9 till 3, Monday to Friday, 9 till 1 on Saturday, no blasting on public holidays. I really do think that the applicants have been considerate in their first instance, and to argue the fact is not necessarily being, is not being fair to the proponents. That's my argument.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkland. Speaker for the motion, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I take my colleagues' points on notice. I think the difference with rural activities is generally it doesn't involve blasting or noisy activities as a rule, and the good folk in the bush do get up early and probably go to bed late as well. My support of this is to consistency with other like projects that we've had come across this table. Hours are set, and I think we need to maintain that just to be fair. Also on the, and I didn't raise this in the discussions of it, but it makes a point of the separation from the quarry extraction site from the road is 150 metres. The side boundary to the north was only 50 metres, and my reckoning on that, there's a dwelling house quite close to its own boundary. So if it was me, and I guess the test that I use is how would I like it, and I wouldn't is probably the short answer. So all those things are considered, even though the application does talk to the environmental impacts and monitoring of that and rehabilitation, and that's great, but I concur with my learned colleague beside me that the hours, I think, are fair and reasonable, and give my support to that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilkinson. No other speakers against the motion? I haven't really got anything else to say other than what Councillor Kirkland has said. So. Sorry for the confusion with that one, Mr. CEO. My inexperience showed through. I did think about that. But there's only one more. There's only one more item on the agenda, so we might as well push through if everyone's happy with that. Yep. Thank you very much, Amanda and team. No worries.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah. Thanks for.
Technically, it wasn't really a foreshadowed motion. You can only have a foreshadowed motion when you're actually in debate. You've got a live motion. It was just basically, it was an indication of there was this whole, and I won't even use the alternate, but there is this other way we can go about it.
Now, I'll start again. Item 11.7, Local Government Association of Queensland's annual conference, and it's in Gladstone this year. I spoke to the Mayor at depth last night about this, and he and myself would like to be the delegates, the voting delegates of the conference, but it's something that we don't get an opportunity too much to actually have the councillors to be able to go down to the conference, and he was sort of quite keen to ask if the councillors want to go down and attend the conference, maybe not all the time, maybe just for a day, maybe for the whole time. He thinks it would be a good opportunity. So because when you read the resolution, it's for 2 councillors to attend the conference and 2 councillors to be appointed as the delegates. So the delegates, firstly, there would be the Mayor, Councillor Williams, and Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fisher, be appointed as the delegates, voting delegates for the conference. But would like to open, I know Mr CEO, you like to sort of keep our travel down, but it is a great opportunity. It's something... You just looked a little bit nervous and think, oh, gee, I'm spending money. And look, up until this term, I had actually only attended 3 local government conferences, and I regretted that ever since, because it is an opportunity to talk and interact with other councillors, but quite often you might be a chair of a committee that you can actually speak to other chairs, and sometimes those problems that are almost impossible to solve, someone's already done it and you build a really good relationship. So I would like to open it so that all councillors, if they would like to go and attend.
Sorry, if I could, I was going to provide some advice here.
Yes.
If I could. So technically, under your travel policy, you do not need council approval because
Correct.
it is within
It's
the
in the
CQ Rock area.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so it's open already to all the councillors to actually...
To attend.
To attend.
Okay.
So
Well,
technically, we don't really need one, but
Yep.
one's always a nice one to have.
Yes.
Of the 2, which is normally the councillor 1 and 2,
Yep.
but it is open to all councillors to attend the conference.
So if you had Mayor Williams, Deputy Mayor Fisher,
Probably, I would,
and
sorry, if I could,
Yep.
if I could through the chair, I'd actually technically take that out
Yep.
because then it could be perceived or read that council is saying, no matter what your policy says, that you can all travel. In this case, only 2 can travel. So I would actually reverse it, take out
totally
1
agree.
Yeah.
and just do it the other way.
Yep, no, happy with. So we delete that.
Three, because we're going to do that separately. Yeah, we'll come back with 3 separately.
Okay. So
You could, sorry, you could if you wanted to.
I just think that sounds a little rude, just the mayor and I, but and count add a.
And all councillors are encouraged to attend.
That,
up to
I think that would be very good.
That's up to the council table. It's just a suggestion.
Yes.
It should say be encouraged, not are.
Do you know I am actually having trouble reading that?
Eat some carrots.
I am going to have to sort of chew a few more carrots, yeah.
Mr CEO, should that say all councillors be encouraged?
Yeah.
Yes,
Be
that
encouraged, yeah.
would be good. And that's been moved by Councillor Wickerson, seconded by Councillor Mathers. Any comments to that?
It's too late for comment.
Okay. Well, all those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. We could probably even take the little council bus stand, couldn't we? If we had to.
Oh, big money.
Okay, thank you for that. There's no notices of motion, no questions on notice. And, Councillor Rutherford.
A question on notice?
I'm not sure whether it falls into questions on notice, but I did want to ask around signage in the region, if I might, Mr Chair.
I would accept that. I think it needs to be asked.
I actually would like to inquire, there is a number of street signs, give-way signs, road directional signs, you name it, signs right across the region, it would seem, certainly within the urban footprint, that are damaged, knocked over by vehicles, graffitied, you name it. And whilst there have been pathway requests that have been put in, there seems to be a very big lag in the time frame of actually addressing these street road directional signs. I have 2 concerns, and the reason I'm asking this of council officers to get back to us as to what the delay is and when they will be repaired, because it is an indictment on our city, I believe, on Rockhampton, when visitors are coming through and noticing that those signs are not being fixed, let alone the regular people who traverse daily through roundabouts and across normal routes to and from work, seeing repeatedly over and over again that these signs are just not being fixed. I would like to ask officers to bring some answers to that to the table. A motion? Then.
Yes.
Questions? So the councillor Kirkland requests a report on the
A report on it. Yeah. A report on the delays with road signage. Yep.
Yes.
It's probably not urgent business.
No.
As such as what it is, you'd have to put done as either a notice of motion as such.
Notice of motion?
Yeah, but you don't.
No, yeah.
We don't. It'll just be another time. We come back in another 2 weeks, so I suggest we just take it.
Yes. I'm happy to do that. You happy with that, Councillor Kirkland?
Yes, very
Okay.
happy. I'm hoping that my colleagues are also on board with that one.
So it's moved.
Well, we'll have it brought back to an infrastructure committee.
Yes, I think that would be best.
So the report of those be presented to the infrastructure.
I think that's quite good. I'm happy to second that, Councillor Kirkland. I think we've probably been all asking that question of when they're going to get back to us. So I think that's quite good. I don't know whether that's... I think you need to leave a little bit. Do you think you can? Okay.
So a question on notice from Councillor normally, I believe, to the agenda.
Yeah.
So it's not a question. So a question on notice is normally that you would have put a question in prior to the council meeting agenda, and then the officers would then respond to that. Particularly would actually, yeah.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Kirkland. I've seconded. All those in favour? And that's carried. Councillor Rutherford, you have a question?
I have a presentation
Oh,
to
even
make,
better
Mr
still.
Deputy Mayor. On behalf of the Mayor, he did accept this down at the Touch Football on the weekend, but not being here today, he has asked me to present it to the council table, along with some of the most amazing feedback we could possibly hope for from the organisers of the event, Touch Football Queensland, from visitors to our city, to our region, and what an amazing event it was, just absolutely incredible. And the weather was kind in the end. Everyone was so happy with how things went along. Talking to the people from Touch, they were a little concerned because there was such a lot of anti-Rockhampton sentiment from the southern community to coming up here. So we have proven them wrong. Certainly, we have lots of people that made comments they didn't realise how wonderful this place was and how much there was to do. There were also great compliments that came towards our council and to departments of council. They say that we have been the most proactive, easy-going council to get on with, to be able to produce this event with them, in conjunction with them, to Advance Rockhampton, to Parks, to Civil Ops, to the CAF team. The accolades, really I can't explain high enough that they got. And the comments that came congratulating and thanking Justin Bullwinkle for his efforts leading up to and over the event. You know, we're just absolutely, both Mayor and I were extremely proud to be standing out there in front of, as representatives of not only our organisation but the whole region. Everyone did us proud, so I'm so happy to be able to pass that on. I would like maybe that we move a motion that the CEO pass on our thanks to certainly Justin and Zach, but also all staff right across the organisation for representing us in such a wonderful way.
The CEO pass on thanks to all staff involved. Yeah, thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much.
I would
And
have passed.
I know. I'm going to just keep the
handball. Yeah, handball at the CEO.
Councillors, there's one thing that this raises. I councillors, the staff, we are doing a lot of great work. We're doing a lot of, in a lot of areas. We don't go out to get publicity, but really it is so good when you get such great feedback. And I know in many of the departments, sometimes the staff actually feel a little bit disillusioned at times because they work really hard and see nothing for it. But when you have really nice comments like that and have that feedback to them, I think that makes a big difference. So thank you, Councillor Rutherford. A couple of other questions? Yeah, sorry. Councillor Wickerson had put his hand up. Sorry, I spoke too soon. Would you like
Yes,
to come on first?
if that's right. So no, didn't want to say. I just wanted to make a quick comment in regards to that as well. When I was at the welcome function, I was there with the Mayor and Councillor Latcham was there as well, and we had the Chair and the CEO from Football Queensland said that was the best fields that the kids had played on. And I thought they've been doing that for a lot of years and a lot of carnivals. So, it's just, really good feedback. So thanks to the team.
That's handy to know. We all get those calls about, why aren't you doing something with our sports fields? They're terrible. That's it. But it's not just the touch. There's so many other areas. You look at the fields. They have made great progress. The last 4 years, I think, has been some of the best progress in the standard of our fields. So we just need to get more of that out. So thank you for that. Now we're going to put that motion. Been moved, Councillor Rutherford, seconded Councillor Wickerson. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you for that. Now, I think that brings us no further business. I'll declare the meeting closed at 11:08. Thank you very much.